The head of the Russian Imperial House, Her Imperial Highness the Grand Duchess Maria Vladimirovna, was born in Madrid. She is the only daughter of the late head of the Russian Imperial House, His Imperial Highness Grand Duke Vladimir Kirillovich, and his most august spouse, Her Imperial Highness Grand Duchess Leonida Georgievna. Following the tradition of the Romanov imperial family, the Grand Duchess was brought up in the Orthodox faith and to have devotion to the interest of Russia. She reached the age of dynastic majority when she turned 16, so in 1969 the Grand Duchess took the prescribed oath of allegiance of loyalty to her fatherland and her august father. Her Imperial Highness studied at Oxford University. In addition to Russian, the Grand Duchess is fluent in English, French and Spanish. She also speaks and reads German, Italian and Arabic. Her first visit to Russia was in April 1992 to attend the funeral of Grand Duke Vladimir Kirillovich in St. Petersburg. Since that time, Her Imperial Highness has made many return trips carrying on the duties of her father. In her speeches, she constantly emphasizes that she is ready to respond to a call from the people, but that under no circumstances does she wish monarchy to be imposed on the Russian people against their will. Maria Vladimirovna is also in the line of succession to the British throne.
Why does your family want this rehabilitation, and do the saints need rehabilitation at all?
Well, that's a question that you often ask. Obviously, you can't have anything better than having a saint in the family. Nevertheless, according to our Constitution, it's a constitutional right, and therefore I think that to show the rest of the world that we abide to these laws, I think it's only fair. And if you had a member of your family that died when everybody thought that he was a murderer or public enemy, and after his death, after a certain time, all of a sudden one finds out that this is not the case, you would like that your family name and that your grandfather, uncle, aunt, or whoever it was, name be rehabilitated. But mostly it isn't a political issue. I'm not asking for any compensations out of it. I said it right from the beginning. It's not a political issue. It's really so that the image of Russia will be once again up to its standards, and that people all over the world will really believe in Russia and to what it abides to laws, and that it's a fresh, new Russia that makes a new start, is not afraid of anything, and really now it's otherwise the terror has never ended.
Your Imperial Highness, but maybe it's another question often asked to you, but the Supreme Court, I know, has so far denied even to discover the case, because they say Nicholas II, he was never convicted, he was even never officially charged.
Well,
he was
there
just
you are.
murdered. So how can we talk about rehabilitation, somebody not convicted?
Exactly. So, I mean, if it would have been maybe more difficult had there been laws against them, no, and we would have to re-look into that. But nevertheless, the order was given from above, just because he was a member of that family, like all the other, or many other members of our family were just assassinated because of it. So I think it's just fair that if any Russian or foreigner that lived in Russia and suffered from this persecution be rehabilitated, that's all. Obviously, up till now, it is all minor technicalities. They just go round the pot the whole time, and obviously there's still people that do not have the stamina, the understanding, how important this case is for Russia. Maybe we sign treaties, we do very important things that surface very important, and sometimes these little minor things will give the credibility to a country that maybe those treaties do not always give, because they always think, yeah, we're signing today, but tomorrow we never know whether they'll comply to them.
Now let's look at some facts concerning the last days and the tragic death of the last Russian emperor in a story by Spotlight's Elena Demidova.
After Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate in 1917, he and his family were initially kept as prisoners near St. Petersburg and then sent into exile beyond the Ural Mountains. In the spring of 1918, the former monarch's family was locked in the Ipatiev house in Yekaterinburg, where they spent several months before they were murdered. Early in the morning of the 17th of July, the Tsar, his wife, children and a small retinue were gathered into one of the rooms of their prison house and shot. The bodies were taken to a forest, soaked in acid and burned, and the place of their burial was kept secret for a long time. The remains of the family, with the exception of two of the children, Alexei and Maria, were only found in 1991. The process of identifying the remains was a thorough one. Samples were sent to Britain and the United States for DNA testing. British scientists said they were more than 98% sure that the remains were those of the emperor and his family. A Christian burial ceremony was held in 1998, 80 years after the royal family's death. The Russian Orthodox Church canonized the murdered Romanovs. In July 2007, the remains of a boy and a young woman were found near Yekaterinburg. A series of examinations have recently confirmed that the bone fragments belong to Russia's last royal family, supposedly Crown Prince Alexei and Grand Princess Maria.
Your Imperial Highness, do you personally believe that the remains discovered in Yekaterinburg and the suburbs really belong to your family, to the last Russian emperor and his family?
Well, right from the beginning, even those that were found before, we very much hoped that they would be. But it doesn't mean that, of course, the family wanting it to be so, it cannot prove one way or the other and cannot influence. This is a matter of people that are really professors, doctors, learned people in the matter that will have to make a decision. Plus, of course, we have to respect the church that obviously has made them into saints and cannot make the people believe and are in front of relics and sometime later say, oh, oops, sorry, we made a mistake. As you well know, science develops more and more, and look, for instance, in Spain, just last week, what was believed to be a picture of Goya for at least 200 years turned out to be not a fake, but something that has been painted. So, you know, science can, it's not a matter that it makes a mistake, but can believe for a certain time with the technique and they have at that time. But of course, the church is something eternal, you know, so they have to look much further and possibly take their time until the good Lord wants to prove us right one way or the other.
So do you mean to say that your family should wait until the church adopts the authenticity of these remains that were buried in St. Petersburg, and only after that you may take it as a belief rather than a scientific result, which may be a mistake? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah, you know, I think we have to accept what obviously the learned people will tell us, and have the church back it, you know, and otherwise, I suppose, we will have just to wait. There's no rush, really. As you said before the beginning, what more can we ask if already members of our family have become saints, martyrs, and are recognized as such? I think that's the most important. But to revere relics, we cannot make mistakes and ask people that bow in and pray in front of these relics, and then all of a sudden we'll say, oh, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. So that's why one has to understand the church's position and wait until they are convinced or think that it's time to recognize them or not, you know.
Says Her Imperial Highness, the Grand Duchess Maria Vladimirovna.